It gives you a single bite. Then it turns around and walks away. No chasing, no roaring, not even a backward glance. It's as if nothing ever happened. It leisurely finds a rock, lies down, and basks in the sun. Yet, at this exact moment, your countdown to death has already begun. This isn't the plot of a horror movie. This is the Komodo dragon, the calmest, most ruthless creature on Earth that leaves scientists in stunned silence. First, let's look at a piece of news that took global media by storm. In 2022, 4 men in an Indian wildlife sanctuary committed an indescribable act of assault on a monitor lizard and filmed the entire thing. After the incident, the name third sister-in-law became permanently linked to monitor lizards. Impossible to shake off. But one thing must be corrected here. The one assaulted was a Bengal monitor lizard, not a Komodo dragon. The Komodo dragon doesn't need that kind of gimmick to be famous, because it is already terrifying enough on its own. It doesn't need anyone to manufacture hype for it. It has lived quietly on this planet for 900,000 years. The woolly mammoths disappeared. Even back when human ancestors were still groping around in trees, the Komodo dragon was already here. It doesn't need trending topics. It is a legend in its own right. It lives on 5 small islands in Indonesia, among which Komodo Island is its true kingdom. Adults can reach a maximum length of up to 3.1 meters and weigh over 130 kilograms. It is the largest living lizard on Earth. With every step it takes, the ground shakes slightly. The first to discover them were a group of convicts exiled to the deserted island. They wrote back letters saying there were land crocodiles on the island that could hunt wild boars and scavenge carcasses. The outside world thought this was just a lie made up by inmates to escape punishment. Not until 1911, when an American pilot flew low over Komodo Island and saw with his own eyes a dense cluster of massive reptiles, 3 meters long, with skin as rough as rock, lying on the ground. Only then did the world realize it wasn't a lie. This is a letter sent from prehistoric times to the modern world. Now, let me completely shatter your perception of it. You might have learned in textbooks that Komodo dragons rely on bacteria in their mouths. Because they frequently scavenge rotting meat, their mouths breed a massive amount of deadly bacteria. Once a prey is bitten, within a few days, it will die from bacterial infection. Sounds reasonable, right? Wrong, and it has been wrong for 60 years. In 2009, scientists in Australia put the head of a Komodo dragon into an MRI machine. Deep inside its lower jaw, they discovered 2 glands that had never been documented before. Those are venom glands. Furthermore, research revealed that the amount of bacteria in a Komodo dragon's mouth is actually less than that in a 3-year-old child's mouth. It is actually a quite clean predator. Every time after eating, it spends 10 to 15 minutes carefully licking its lips and cleaning its mouth with blades of grass. So bacteria are not the murder weapon at all. What truly kills the prey is its venom. The venom contains nearly 30 toxic components, including potent anticoagulant toxins, specifically designed to attack the prey's blood clotting system. Once injected with the venom, the wound bleeds continuously without healing. Blood pressure drops drastically, and muscles gradually become paralyzed. Ultimately, in extreme weakness, the prey walks step by step toward death. How is this just an animal? This is clearly nature's coldest time bomb. And it doesn't even need you to notice its stealth. But venom isn't its most shocking weapon. In 2024, a new study left the global herpetology community completely speechless. Scientists used high-resolution electron microscopes to carefully examine the teeth of Komodo dragons. They discovered that the cutting edges of the teeth are covered with a dense orange coating. That isn't food residue, nor is it dirt, let alone pigmentation. That is iron biosynthesized and embedded into the enamel. This study confirmed that the Komodo dragon is currently the only known reptile with a surface coated in iron This iron coating makes its teeth harder than ordinary enamel by at least 13%. Every single tooth is like a scimitar forged by nature itself. You might think the T-Rex had the most formidable teeth. Scientists compared them using fossilized T-Rex teeth. The T-Rex relied on wavy enamel to prevent cracks from spreading. But the Komodo dragon directly suits up its teeth with a layer of iron armor. A living creature has evolved its teeth to a much more extreme level than the extinct dinosaurs. It is precisely because of these iron teeth that it can easily tear through the thickest hide of a water buffalo, sever tendons, and even crush bones. Its way of eating isn't called biting. It's called slicing. Once it bites down on its prey, it pulls back violently, and the serrated iron teeth rip the flesh apart piece by piece, like a zipper, cruel and precise. Now, let me describe a real-life hunt. The target: an adult water buffalo weighing up to 550 kilograms. The Komodo dragon launches a sudden ambush while the buffalo is off guard. It takes just one bite at the heel and lets go immediately. The buffalo runs away, and the dragon doesn't chase it. It simply follows from a distance, flicking its tongue continuously, sending the blood stench that grows thicker in the air. Like an audience member who already knows the ending, it patiently waits for the plot to unfold. 3 days later, the buffalo develops a fever. The wound festers, and it walks with a severe limp. More Komodo dragons begin to appear around it. They gather in the distance, their eyes staring calmly and greedily. The buffalo looks at the figures closing in, realizing for the first time that from the very moment that single bite landed, it had already lost. 3 weeks later, the buffalo collapses by the very pool where it was first bitten. In less than 4 hours, over a dozen Komodo dragons devour it completely, leaving only an empty clearing. Time is its sharpest weapon. Patience is its most profound hunting skill. Currently, there are only about 3,000 adult Komodo dragons left in the wild, and they have been listed as an endangered species. This hunter, which has survived on Earth for 900,000 years, is now vanishing. Sometimes I wonder, it spent hundreds of thousands of years evolving, giving itself a mouthful of iron teeth, injecting venom potent enough to bring down a water buffalo, and honing a level of patience that would exhaust an entire mountain range. It practically turned itself into a perfect killing machine. Yet all of this, in the face of human expansion, has become completely useless. Iron teeth cannot bite through fences, venom cannot dissolve steel, and patience cannot bring back a vanished habitat. So I want to ask you a question, not about the Komodo dragon, but about all of us. A species that has lived on Earth for 900,000 years has lost to a species that has only existed on Earth for 200,000 years. Who is the truly most dangerous presence on this planet? Have you ever heard the cry of a monster? If you suddenly hear this low rumble out at sea tonight, it isn't the waves, and it isn't the wind. That is a blue whale communicating with a companion 1,400 kilometers away. This sound is louder than a jet engine, reaching 188 decibels. If a human were directly exposed to it, their eardrums would shatter instantly. You know that blue whales are massive, but do you know just how big they are? Its weight is more than double that of the second largest animal in Earth's history, even more staggering than the largest dinosaur. Scientists say it may have already touched the physical limits of body size in nature. It is the blue whale. But what shocks me even more isn't just its size. Let's first talk about just how absurd it really is. The largest blue whale is nearly 30 meters long, equivalent to the height of a 10-story building. Its weight can reach up to around 190 tons, which is roughly the combined weight of 150 ordinary cars stacked together. Its heart is about the size of a small car, with a resting heart rate of only 2 to 10 beats per minute, so slow it takes your breath away. How thick are its arteries? A small child could crawl straight through them. And its cry reaches up to about 188 decibels. In an ocean free from any noise pollution, this sound can travel over thousands of kilometers. It is equivalent to shouting from Beijing and being heard in Shanghai. You think that's all? Not yet. A blue whale can swallow half a ton of krill in a single mouthful, which is an entire year's worth of food for an average human. This creature truly doesn't seem like something that belongs on Earth. So how did it come to be? Rewind time to about 50 million years ago. Back then, along a certain riverbank in Pakistan, a small animal was foraging for food. Its body size was similar to a wolf. It walked on 4 legs, and it had hooves looking like a relative of deer and pigs. Scientists call it Pakicetus. It is an important representative of early cetaceans, a member of the lineage containing the common ancestor of all whales. Yes, you heard that right. The ancient ancestor of the blue whale was a hoofed animal that ran around on land. DNA evidence shows that the closest living relative of whales is the hippopotamus. These two species, one wallowing on land and the other roaming the deep ocean, actually share the same ancient genetic code. The reason that initially drove these small animals into the water might have been very simple: foraging for food and avoiding danger. They were small and had many natural predators. Land was far too dangerous. Leaping into the water actually saved their lives. It was just such a choice born of necessity that changed the entire biological history of the Earth. Over the next 10 million years, these whale ancestors began to slowly adapt to life in the water. Their limbs shortened and their nostrils gradually moved upward, eventually evolving into the blowholes we see today. Their tails became wider and flatter, becoming the engines that propelled their bodies forward. They completely abandoned the land and threw themselves wholeheartedly into the embrace of the ocean. By around 38 million years ago, a massive creature named Basilosaurus burst onto the scene. With a body length exceeding 20 meters, it was the apex predator in the ocean at the time. It didn't just hunt large fish and sharks. Scientists have also found the bones of other marine mammals inside its fossils. In other words, Basilosaurus would also hunt other early cetaceans. This was the first whale in history to feed on other whales. But the true evolutionary stroke of genius occurred around 10 million years ago. Before this, the whale family had already split into 2 major branches. One branch was the toothed whales, relying on echolocation to hunt precisely in the deep sea. The other branch was the baleen whales. They gave up sharp teeth and grew baleen plates, a type of keratinous sieve inside the mouth, capable of filtering plankton out of seawater. The blue whale belongs to the baleen whales. Then, around 10 million years ago, a new feeding technique emerged among baleen whales: lunge feeding. This group of whales, known as rorquals, possess loosely hinged jaws that allow them to open their mouths to the absolute limit. The skin folds on their throat can expand like a balloon, instantly accommodating a massive volume of water. They will sprint at full speed towards swarms of krill, and then, with a wide opening of the mouth, the entire swarm of krill, along with a vast amount of seawater, is swallowed whole in a single gulp. They then use the baleen plates to filter the water out, leaving the food behind. This is one of the most efficient ways of feeding on Earth. Even industrial trawlers are not as powerful. But here comes the strange part. Rorquals clearly already had such an efficient feeding method, yet for a long period of time, their body size did not become particularly massive. It was not until about 5 million years ago that a major transformation occurred. Almost all rorqual species experienced a collective, explosive growth in size around the same time. What on earth happened? The answer lies hidden in the deep sea. 5 million years ago, Earth's geology and climate underwent drastic changes. The Antarctic ice sheet formed, oceanic circulation restructured, and marine upwellings intensified sharply. The so-called upwelling refers to nutrient-rich cold water from the deep sea being driven to the surface by strong winds. This supply from the deep ocean was like applying a massive amount of fertilizer to the entire sea, directly triggering an explosive proliferation of plankton, which in turn sustained dense swarms of krill and fish. The ocean suddenly became an all-you-can-eat buffet with an endless supply. There was more food than could ever be finished. Lunge feeding, this method of bulk consumption, became incredibly efficient at this moment. The larger the mouth, the more it could consume at one time. The larger the body, the more fat it could store to endure the long migration seasons. Evolution presented the blue whale with a question, and the answer was just one word: big, bigger, even bigger. Thus, the blue whale emerged. Its appearance shattered almost all prior perceptions regarding the upper limits of animal body size. Scientists even built specific metabolic models to calculate that a blue whale measuring around 33 meters in length requires an immense consumption of oxygen when feeding, and even needs to utilize anaerobic metabolism to supplement its energy. This is the absolute physical limit it can attain. Any larger, and its mouth wouldn't close in time, allowing the prey to escape before the jaws shut. In other words, the blue whale is likely the single largest animal this planet has ever been capable of nurturing without exception. But the blue whale has one fatal weakness. It feeds almost exclusively on krill. The scale of krill gatherings can be terrifyingly massive. A single swarm can stretch for hundreds of meters long, hundreds of meters wide, and over 100 meters deep. With such staggering volume, a blue whale can swallow half a ton in a single mouthful. The efficiency is incredibly high, yet krill availability is seasonal. They explode in numbers during summer in cold, high-latitude waters, and drastically decrease in winter. This forces the blue whale to undertake long migrations, traveling thousands of kilometers every year. In summer, they feast frantically near the polar regions to build up fat stores. In winter, they migrate to warm, low-latitude waters to give birth. For several consecutive months, they eat almost nothing, relying entirely on stored fat to survive, putting all its eggs in one basket. This is the extreme strategy evolved by the blue whale, and it is also its most vulnerable point. Then, humans entered the picture. At the beginning of the 20th century, industrial whaling began to flourish. Because blue whales were the largest and yielded the most oil, they became the #1 target for whaling ships. The numbers are horrifying. In less than a century, the global blue whale population, historically estimated at around 200,000 to 300,000 individuals, was hunted down to fewer than 1,000. An entire 97% of the population vanished under human harpoons. In 1966, the International Whaling Commission finally banned commercial hunting of blue whales. But the story didn't end there. Due to their long lifespans and slow reproduction, female blue whales give birth to just one calf every 2 to 3 years. Population recovery is extremely slow. To this day, the blue whale remains an endangered species. The good news is, according to recent observations, for the first time in decades, blue whales have reappeared in the waters of Seychelles. The Antarctic blue whale population has also shown signs of recovery. This is a faint yet real signal of hope. But another crisis is quietly closing in. Climate change is causing continuous ocean acidification. Krill eggs are extremely sensitive to acidic environments and simply cannot survive normally in acidified seawater. At the same time, human commercial harvesting of krill is continuously putting a squeeze on the blue whale's food sources. It took 50 million years for the blue whale to evolve from a small animal running along a riverbank into the largest form of life in Earth's history. Yet, faced with the impact of human civilization, it is remarkably fragile. I often wonder, as the blue whale swims in the deep sea, what kind of loneliness must that be? Its cries can travel thousands of kilometers, yet it becomes harder and harder to find a companion. It was once the most thriving behemoth on Earth, yet before we even arrived in this world, It had already been pushed by us to the brink of extinction. We always assumed that the era of Earth's giants ended with the extinction of the dinosaurs. But we never expected that the largest form of life in Earth's history is still swimming in our oceans today. It shouldn't even have existed, yet through a miracle of evolution and a little bit of luck, it managed to survive. And whether it can continue to survive depends entirely on the choices we as humans make.